Hey guys, Dr. Stephanie here, and I wanted to go through some rotator cuff strengthening exercises today. So the rotator cuff is this group of muscles kind of on the back of your shoulder, around your shoulder blade here. It's a group of 4 muscles. The supraspinatus is probably the main muscle, the one that does most of the rotation and lifting, and that one kind of comes over the top of your shoulder and attaches right here in the front of the humerus. And then there's the infraspinatus, there is the teres minor, and there's the subscapularis, and that's kind of the one underneath your shoulder blade. So all 4 of those muscles are really important for shoulder health. They stabilize the shoulder joint, they help with elevation, they help with rotation. So if those muscles aren't strong, you're more likely to have a shoulder injury or shoulder pain, or if you already have a shoulder injury, then a lot of times those muscles aren't as strong as they should be. And this goes for everybody. Sometimes, even if you're lifting weights a lot, maybe you're a bodybuilder, maybe you do a lot of bicep curls, you work on your upper body, these muscles are small and a lot of times they get missed. So we do a lot of bicep curls, we do shoulder presses, we do bench press, but we don't do those rotational movements. And so that kind of misses the rotator cuff. So even if you feel like you're pretty strong in your upper body, in your shoulders, your rotator cuff may not be as strong as it should be. And if it's not strong, then that can lead to shoulder injuries and pain. The most common are rotator cuff tendinitis, and a lot of times that's pain up here, or tendinopathy. Tendinitis is kind of an acute pain, and a lot of times these are more chronic injuries. Bursitis in that area, there's a bursa sac up there, which is a fluid-filled sac that may get irritated. You may have heard of impingement, and that's really they're all kind of a similar diagnosis. Those rotator cuff tendons are irritated, maybe have some micro tears in there, and to treat any of those injuries, really to treat any shoulder injury, you want to kind of work on strengthening that rotator cuff, making sure you have full range of motion in your shoulder, and just strengthening not just the rotator cuff, but all of the muscles in the back of your shoulder. If these muscles are strong, then they really support the shoulder joint and can get rid of any pain there and prevent injury. So I'm going to go through 4 of my favorite rotator cuff strengthening exercises. And these are exercises you can and should add to your strength training routine. Do them 3, 4, 5 times a week and really build strong shoulders. So for the first one, we're going to use small weights. I have 3 pounds, but you can start with no weight or 1 pound. You don't necessarily need heavy weights, because when we use heavier weights with these exercises, usually other muscles compensate. So then you're not using those rotator cuff muscles. So for this one, it's external rotation, but at 90 degrees. So our shoulders are going to be up at 90 degrees, elbows bent to 90 degrees, and you just want to rotate your hands up towards the ceiling and back down. Rotate up and back down. And you really want to make sure that your upper arm is staying parallel to the floor. So you don't want your elbows to drop. You want to keep them up here. And you may at first be like, oh, that's pretty easy. But if you do it nice and slow and you do 2 to 3 sets of 10, your shoulders will be really burning by the end. This is just a motion that we don't do a lot, but it really works on that rotator cuff. So you want to do 2 to 3 sets of 10 of that. And again, start with no weight, start with 1 pound weight, and gradually progress. But I would never progress above like 5 pounds, because when you go above 5 pounds, then you really start compensating with other muscles and not using that rotator cuff. Okay, now we're gonna grab a band. And so just a little loop resistance band like this. And this next exercise also looks fairly easy, but if you do it, this is one of the toughest rotator cuff exercises you can do. So place the band around your wrist, place your elbows by your side, and you wanna just pull your wrists or pull your hands apart, and then keep them pulled apart. So keep that resistance. Lift your arms up overhead as high as you can, and then come back down, maintaining that resistance, and then relax. So that's 1 rep, and that's gonna really work that rotator cuff. So you pull apart, lift, and back down. Pull apart, lift, and back down. And I would recommend starting with the lightest resistance band that you have or you can find, and then gradually increasing. And also just start with maybe 10 reps of this, 10 or 15 reps, And then you can start adding other sets. So you can do just 10 or 15 to start, and then you can work your way up to 20 to 30. But this is a really tough one, especially if you do it correctly and you do it nice and slow. Okay, so number 3 exercise, we're gonna place this band around our wrists again, but behind our back. And I'll show you from the back. So what you're gonna do is pull your wrists apart again and just lift this band behind you and back down. So now we're working on a little bit of shoulder extension. And this is kind of a motion that you don't necessarily work on a lot, but it's important and it helps build that shoulder strength in the back of your shoulder. So just pull these apart, lift, and come back down. Pull, lift, and back down. Pull, lift, and back down. 2 to 3 sets of 10, but start where you're at. If 10 is really tough, just do 10 to start with, and then you can add another set or 2. Okay, for the last exercise, we're going to come down on the floor and grab a small weight. And you can do this on a bed or a table or bench if you have it too. So what we're gonna do for this one is, it's called sideline external rotation. So you're just going to basically lift up like this and back down. And you can keep your elbow right by your side, but you can also roll up a towel and place it underneath here. So, or you can just hold it up there. That adds a little extra challenge and really makes your rotator cuff work. But you can also start with it just by your side and rotating up. So just rotate up as far as you can and then back down. Again, seems pretty easy, but it's harder than it looks. And again, start with a small weight or no weight. And gradually work your way up. I probably wouldn't go up super high because then you're compensating, but you want to do 2 to 3 sets of 10. That one, since it's a single arm exercise, you can then go ahead and flip over to the other side and do the same thing on the other side. But all those 4 exercises are a great place to start if you're looking to strengthen your rotator cuffs, strengthen your shoulders, prevent pain. Even if you have pain, these are exercises I would do with patients with shoulder pain or shoulder injuries. So grab some weights and a band and start strengthening those rotator cuffs.